I just wanted to reflect on the story you used to tell about when you had Glennie in Grand Rapids and you told him he needed to work on his face-offs, and 2 weeks later he was your best face-off guy, and now he's the top percentage face-off guy in the league. Just as far as the testament to the work he's put in since you've known him, what can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back. I think Mike Babcock had wanted somebody to come up and be a fourth-line center, and up in Detroit, and he was really interested in Glennie, but at the time, Glennie wasn't a great face-off guy in the American League, and Babs and I had talked about it, and obviously you can't come up and be a fourth-line center in the NHL if you're not a good face-off guy in the American League, and Glennie and I had the conversation, and Glennie went to work. Spiros Anastas, who was one of our assistant coaches at the time, helped them with a lot of video and stuff like that, and Glennie went to work, and he's continued to work at it. Glennie's got an unbelievable inner drive and work ethic, and he's got a great capacity to get better because he is a good athlete and he's smart. And so when you have those things, that can be a real powerful combination, and you can improve as you continue to get older. Some people can't improve in their 20s, and he's continued to improve all the way throughout his pro career. But to me, it really is just a reflection of his work ethic and inner drive.
And what about his mental toughness? You guys have been through a lot the last couple of years, and he still brings the same game and attitude every night. How important is his mental toughness in that room, and how do you see it maybe rub off on some guys?
Well, he's got great respect of everybody in the room because of how hard he works, and I think where the mental toughness shows is just in his work ethic. I mean, they see him train in the summer. Nobody trains like him. He trains. He's a beast from all the reports that I hear, and I think that just that's where I think a lot of mental toughness is born is in those times where you don't know if you have another set in you, and you find a way to get another set. You don't know if you have another 10 yards in you, and you find a way to run those 10 yards at full capacity. That's where the mental toughness is really born, and it's where it manifests itself. And clearly, our guys know that he's a mentally tough person who's got great inner drive.
Thanks, Flash.
Yep.
Next up, Ted Colton, the Trade News.
Hey, Jeff, just to follow up on that a little bit, some of these guys that are in college would be the walk-ons, or up here would be the undrafted free agents. Do you sometimes kind of like keep an eye on those guys just because they probably do have their chip on their shoulder, and maybe they'll probably have a lot of fortitude or whatnot to try to make a roster?
Well, I think our scouting staff does, and I know that it's something that's really important to our scouting staff, our management staff. Ryan Martin's had an impact on that. Yuri Fisher's had an impact on that, and along with the rest of our scouting staff. And I think Ryan Martin ultimately was the one who got Luke Glendening to sign an American League deal in Grand Rapids. And I think it's a good testament to a couple things. One's a mental toughness and chip on your shoulder and work ethic, but it's also how you learn to make yourself useful. And there's a lot of players that don't make it in the NHL who have better skill sets than other players that do make it when they're younger. And the question is why? And why is because the guys that can learn how to make themselves useful. Not everybody can be a top-line scorer. Not everybody can be a top-six forward. And so if you're not those things, how can you make yourself useful? How can you be great on faceoffs? How can you be great defensively? How can you be a great shot blocker? How can you bring energy? How can you bring toughness? Whatever it might be. And I think that's also a lesson for our prospects, guys that have been up and now been sent back down, is they have to look and say, okay, if I'm not going to be let's use other players in the league. If I'm not going to be Barkov, how can I be Hornquist? And those types of reflections, I think, are real important for young players.
Yeah, just a quick thought on the Panthers. At this point, should everybody believe that they are for real? I mean, there's no fluke here.
Well, first, I think obviously the 3 games against Tampa Bay should reflect to everybody in the league. I mean, Tampa's has been obviously the Stanley Cup champion, and they're clearly one of the best teams in the league, and they went toe-to-toe, and I think won 2 of the 3, and that kind of shows you where they're at today. I know when we've played them a number of times now, and they're a very, very good hockey team. Barkov's one of the best players in the league. Probably doesn't get as much credit as he should. He's done a real good job with his wingers, Verhaeghe and Duclair, and then I think Huberdeau and Hornquist are playing at extremely high levels. And I've been really impressed with Hornquist coming in here. I think he probably had some doubters around the league in terms of where his his game was still at, and he's been outstanding, I think. And I think Huberdeau's an outstanding player. They got a good decor. They got a great coach. They got a good goaltenders. I mean, they're a good team.
Hey, that is a good point, Jeff. This is games 5 and 6 against them. Are you at that point where you're still full-scale scouting them, or is it kind of like, all right, you know what you do, you know what we do, let's just see whoever does it best?
Yeah, I think it's that. And I think hockey lots of times come down to what you do and how well you do it, to be honest, way more than its strategy, because of the fact that the game is so fluid that it really comes down to your own habits in your own game. But certainly there's areas of the game that you have to be either try to exploit or be sure that they don't exploit you. And they've got some areas of the game they're real good at. But we know each other very, very well now after, in a very condensed period of time. This will be our 5th and 6th game against them. So I don't think there's any surprises out there. It goes now to who executes at a higher level, who plays at a higher level, which is generally what hockey comes down to.
Good stuff. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Next question from Ansar Khan with FLA.
Hey, Jeff, it seemed like Bobby Ryan had one of his better games. The last game seemed to have some chances, a lot of shots. And with a guy like that, who's I'm sure throughout his career has gone through these dry spells and always found a way to eventually break through, is there less of a concern with a guy like that it will affect him mentally as opposed to maybe a younger guy?
Well, I think, when you've been through experiences, you can reflect on those. I would say that nobody's immune to their confidence being shaken. I learned that with a guy like Thomas Vanek, who's as talented as any player, I've been around, and he's, he went through stretches where his confidence was shaken, and I think the same can be true of a guy like Bobby. Even though he scored lots, you still, when you're not scoring, you don't feel quite as good about yourself. I think the fact that you've been through it probably gives you perspective to understand that as long as you're getting chances, ultimately you will score. But it's not the easiest thing in the world to not let it bother you and to not let it affect you in some way, and you got to mentally fight that out and understand it's all about playing good hockey, and if you play good hockey, results will follow in the long term. I mean, he was never going to keep up the pace that he started with. That's just, it would be unrealistic to think that. But, certainly he's a guy who has been a proven scorer in this league, and I think is skating really well and doing lots of good things, and I think he will score to a high level again. And so it's just a matter of staying with it and continuing to get chances and making sure he's playing the right way. And as we talked about yesterday, trying to fight off any confidence issues and making sure that you're not cheating or hoping for offense.
And Nemesnikov and Helm, are they available for the night?
I anticipate Helm being available, and I would say Vladdy is out for tonight.
Okay, so you would have 12 forwards.
We got plenty of players available to us, correct?
Okay. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yep.
We'll wrap up with Max Goldman from the FLA.
Hey Jeff, I just wanted to ask you about Robbie Fabry and how you think he's doing overall now that you've had a little bit bigger sample of him at center this year.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think he's growing at center. I think obviously it wasn't ideal that he went out with COVID and got hit harder with COVID. And I think when he came back, it took him a few games to get his legs underneath him and feel just good physically. And I think he feels better now. Like any player in the league, he fights. You always have some nagging injuries that you got to fight through. But I think overall he's feeling just good physically, which is a good start. In terms of at center, I think he's I think he's learned and gotten better in the defensive side of it, especially in D zone. He's still working at the face-off part of it, and he needs to continue to improve at that part. And as him and I spoke yesterday, he's going to keep working hard at it and getting better at it. I think like a lot of players that have grown up playing center, they feel better in the middle when they get the puck. They just feel like it allows them to use their skill sets better. And so, now they can go through the middle of the ice and be able to skate with it a little bit more. I've found that certainly with Vladdy and with Fabs, that it allows them to skate with the puck and have the puck a little bit more. So, again, I think he's improving. I think he's in a good spot. And I think he'll continue to improve because he's going to work hard at it.